You doing okay, Todd?
You know, I'm doing so much better, Jason. I'll tell you, it was probably it was the sickest that I have ever been in my 52 years. And I could not for a little over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
A little over 3 weeks, I was so deathly ill that, I was in the hospital for 4 days. And, of course, they can't give you anything. And, it's not very fashionable in the hospital because, you just go in your sweats.
Mhm.
And you had an IV. I had no really attractive people around me.
Hey,
I wasn't attractive.
You're crazy.
And but it was truly one of the worst sicknesses that I have ever had. This corona hose, she has got to go.
Yes, so let's go back because it's been about a month, and Savannah, we saw your post. I didn't know anything until a few days before you posted that because, Todd, I was just texting with you, checking in. I was like, hey, you want to come on the show? And you're like, I'm fighting this right now. And I was shocked because not a peep from you. And I know posting in any sort of social media is the last thing on your mind when you're really sick. But when did you start getting the symptoms and what did you feel?
When I started, it was our nanny got it first. And then, and I've already told her she's not allowed to talk to me because I told her she's the one who gave it to me. But I started just not feeling well and I had a headache. And Jason, I have never, and what I'm getting ready to say is going to be baffling to the world, to have raised these 5 heathens that I've raised and never had a headache is amazing. But I've never had a headache.
Really?
Never. I've never taken medicine for a headache, nothing. But my head started hurting and I'm like, I think I have a headache. And I told Julie, and so I went and laid down, and the next morning I was like freezing. I took a shower, I couldn't get warm, and then I was just kind of aching all over. And then on the next day, I was so physically sick that, like, nauseous, like I could not move. And my fever kept going from 99 to 101. And then at night, I would wake up and I would be sweating. So I was like, okay, it must have been the flu because now my fever broke. And then the next day it would start creeping back up and it would do the same thing. And then when my fever got to 103, Judy said, we're going to the emergency room.
Well, see, I freak out. So if I have any symptom, I'm like, oh my God, I've got it. So I immediately was like, no, we're going. And two, I want to preface this by saying we got no special treatment. It wasn't like, oh, there was a shortage of tests and he got one.
No, and I wanted special treatment.
Yeah, you did.
I'm sure if you're in the middle of it, that's exactly what you want.
Yes.
So we went to a Vanderbilt urgent care, and Vanderbilt, they're very well supplied. They have everything. And they even asked me if I wanted to get tested since I had been around him. And I told them, I just said no, because there was no need. Like, I wasn't showing symptoms. So I take a test from someone that could use it. But he went in, he got the test, and then we waited a week until we got the results back. And then I think it was that next day where you ended up going to the hospital. But I'm telling you, I freaked out. I was desperate. When we didn't hear from him, well, Mom says she started calling the hospital. She was freaking out because she said, I'm sorry. She told the nurse, she said, I'm sorry, but when he doesn't respond to me or his mother, that's one thing. But when he doesn't respond to Savannah, that's something completely different. So I need to speak to him. But what
was that waiting period like? You're waiting for a week, wondering.
Where is this happening though in the United States that we have to wait 5 days or 6 days for a damn test result?
No.
What we're dealing with right now, I've never dealt with either. You can't go anywhere. There's no restaurants open. Literally by the time that my family leaves this house after this quarantine, for the first time since this show began, people are not going to recognize us. Botox is wearing off. Roots are showing. No one's going to know who the hell we are.
Yeah, for a second, it took me a minute. I didn't know. I didn't even recognize you. I thought it was Chase.
I'll go with that one, buddy. I'll go with that one. Okay, How are you and Lauren doing?
We're great, man. You know, we've heard so many stories, and I'm trying to be smart when it comes to watching the news and not watching too much news because, you know, your thoughts get the best of you and you just start freaking out. So we've been doing these at home, in the room, Insta Live interviews with friends and family and extended friends. And it's been great because so many people, they feel entertained by it. It's a nice little slice of, I guess, fun and something light during the day when things are just so incredibly hard. And, you know, when you start hearing of friends getting it, kind of like you, we get worried. I mean, Savannah, you were just in the middle of saying it was the scariest time of your life, scariest 3 days of your life. And you guys joke around about the whole thing. But when he was in Vanderbilt at Vandy Hospital, I can only imagine those feelings that you were experiencing when Dad was in there not knowing. You couldn't be next to him.
Oh, I was freaking out because I talked to him literally like 10 times a day. If I don't hear if I don't hear from him by
sounds a little clingy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we talk like all day, every day. So if I don't hear from him by 10 a.m., I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And I text him and I'm like, why have I not heard from you? And I literally, ever since I moved out, I have not gone to bed a night without a good night, I love you text. So that was the hardest thing for me. And I finally just broke down. I was just in tears. I didn't know what to do. I took food. I had like food delivered to the hospital.
This tries to bribe the hospital.
No.
And has food Kate brought up there, thinking they're going to let her come on my floor.
It wasn't happening?
No, it was so secure. They literally have just a wing of the hospital for the COVID-19 patients. And like, there's no way you're getting in. So I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I mean, there was nothing we could do. So whenever you got home, we were all like, thank God. And then he started getting his personality back and super,
well, that was never going anywhere.
No, and so I finally told him, I was like, hey, I think Corona is calling your name. You need to go back to bed.
Can you believe how treacherous she is? Because I snapped back at her the other day over something she said that was so dumb, which is not shocking either. And she said, I hear Corona calling you.
It's ruthless. But we got to laugh a little bit in the middle of this. I'm just so glad that you're looking better. What was the time like in the hospital for you? You're there by yourself. I'm sure you just have a lot of time to look around. I'm sure it was just...
I slept the whole time because my fever was so high. And I don't remember being in the hospital, Jason.
Wow.
I'm sure, I made the joke, I'm not surrounded by beautiful people, but how the hell would I know? I mean, I was asleep and everybody had a mask on.
Hey.
And I've had people in my life that should have had a mask on. But, I don't remember that time. I remember leaving the hospital. I came home, I got a shower, and then I got in bed. And I stayed in bed for a week. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally another week. And I would get up every day and take a shower because, I felt like if I could just get back in my routine. But I will tell you that, everyone knows that, that I'm a very faithful man, that I'm a Christian. And I will tell you that during that time of being in the hospital, I dreamed about my dad, who has passed. And I could see him holding his hand out. And I kept trying to get his hand, but the closer I tried to get to his hand, the further away he would get. And it caused me to, after I got home and kind of trying to understand everything I'd gone through, it caused me to go back and sit down with my wife and say, we've been together for 25 years, but if God takes me, I know where I'm going. So don't grieve for me because I know where I'm going.
Well, he even sent me a text and said, I think I've come to the realization that I'm closer to leaving than I am staying. Wow. So to me, that said a lot.